Rand Carthon, welcome to the show.
Ken Rideout, thank you for having me.
For those who don't know, quick intro. Rand Carthon, former Florida Gator, NFL running back, NFL exec, and eventually GM of the Titans for 2 years.
Yep.
Football man.
Football man. Family man.
And your dad was also a running back?
Yep. Dad played 8 years in the league with the Giants and Colts, and he coached for 19.
Oh, really? I didn't realize he coached too.
He coached for 19. Let me see if I can do this in order. I always have to. New England, Jets, Detroit, Dallas, Cleveland, Arizona, Kansas City.
Running backs coach?
He was running backs coach. He coached running backs in all those places. He was the OC in Dallas, OC in Cleveland, and he was assistant head coach in, I think, just about all those places.
And how many years did you say he played?
He played 8 and then coached for 19, so 27 years total.
I think most people can't comprehend what it takes to play at that level for that many years.
No, but here's the trick for him. He played blocking fullback.
Oh, forget it.
Back in those days where he told me, he was like, this was a few years ago, or more than a few years ago. He was like, man, I don't respect no fullback in the NFL. I'm like, why not? Like, these dudes can ball. He's like, oh, I'm not saying they can't play. He was like, he was like, the smallest linebacker on our Giants team was 250.
Yeah.
He's like, that was the smallest.
Yeah.
And he was like, and I had to block these dudes every single day. He was like, that was back when training camp was 6 weeks. It was two days, full pads every day. There's a year, I can't remember the year, but I think he played in 46 games in a calendar year because he played for, if you remember the USFL.
Yeah, of course.
Played for the New Jersey Generals. He was Herschel Walker's lead blocker.
Oh, damn. That must have been fun.
And then transitioned to the Giants, but he went, I think he only had they played in the spring. Their season was over. Then he went like 2 weeks off, and then right in the Giants training camp. And I think the Giants they made the playoffs, or that might have been the year they won the Super Bowl, 86. I don't remember exactly what year it was, but he played them for like 40-something games in the college, just straight downhill, lead blocking, barely touching the ball.
There are some positions in the NFL when someone tells me they played like defensive end, linebacker, fullback would be one where I'm like, yeah, that's a tough position because you can't slip through the cracks there.
Oh, no, you can't hide.
There's nowhere to hide because the games are like a reward. Practice is where you're just getting destroyed. But if you don't show up at practice and kill, you ain't getting a shot at the game.
But that's what we always say. We say the game should be easier than practice.
Yes.
Practice is where you build callus, is where you do all the hard shit, and the game is like, whew. You know, because at least at that moment you could tune your coach out a little bit.
Yeah.
Because, in practice he's over your shoulder. He can actually come and snatch you out of a drill or get in your face. But the game is like, he's over here. He's got a lot of other stuff to worry about.
Well, it's the same thing with like being a fighter. And I used to host a show with Teddy Atlas called The Fight with Teddy Atlas, and we together, Teddy trained Alex Vosdick, who was the light heavyweight champion of the world, WBC, and we fought Otter Beterbiev, who was the IBF champ. So we spent 8 weeks in training camp. And when you see the sparring sessions and the training that goes into the fight ends up becoming like nothing compared to like the 8 straight weeks of hellacious training and vicious sparring. I mean, at that level, when you're a world champ, you tend to be a little bit better than most of the sparring partners, but all the way coming up, you're the sparring partner. So you're in there with the champion just getting tuned up. Hopefully you've got a trainer in there who's holding the better guy back and not teeing off. But I mean, I know Mike Tyson used to run through sparring partners like crazy.
I mean, you got to think about Tyson. To me, it's either on or off.
Yes.
Right? So if he's in the ring, he's on. Even if you go back to this recent Jake Paul fight.
Yeah.
Just some of his muscle memory. There were shots where you saw him want to take, and everybody's like, why does he keep biting his gloves? It's because he's trying not to hit this man and counter him in a way that he knew at 60 years old he could still knock this dude out at any time he got ready.
Well, Jake Paul took a vicious shot against Anthony Joshua. My God, smashed him.
The best part of that was seeing his face when he got knocked down, and he was like, yeah, I was like, that hit spoke to him. Man, what's that you drinking, man? What kind of water is that?
That's Path Water, custom water bottle from my man Shadi Bakora, Path Water. Great dude.
Yeah, man. It's a cool-ass bottle.
Thank you, brother. So one of the ways for our audience, the way we met, I'm here. We both live in Nashville, and for those that don't know, I have an adopted daughter from Ethiopia, and having a black daughter in a white family is, I wouldn't say has its challenge, but it certainly has its complexities, right? Because I'm not oblivious to racial differences, right? And the motivation behind adopting her was not, we want to adopt a black child. We wanted to adopt someone where we could make the most difference. And when you do an international adoption, you go where the availability is and legally where you can get an adoption done. And not many countries are open to international adoption. Anyway, we adopt her, so we're living here. And one thing I will say about the community here, the black community, is people have been so overwhelmingly friendly and welcoming to us. It's been like, it makes me feel emotional because I grew up in South Boston, one of the most in the 70s, during like one of the most racially tense situations ever with forced busing. I mean, I never really even considered race, as crazy as it sounds. I just, when my daughter was young, she would say to me, I don't want to be different. And I would always say to her, like, listen, if you get a cut, I'm like making this stuff up on the fly. I'm like, if you get a cut, what comes out? Red blood, right? I said, Mom has blonde hair. You have brown hair. I have brown eyes. Someone else has green eyes. Your skin is a different color, but we're all the same. And she struggled with it a lot. But since we've been here, the welcoming we've received from the black community has been, honestly, it's been super touching. And you and your wife, who's Eritrean, have been just so welcoming to us. And it's made a huge difference to our adjustment being in Nashville. So for the audience, Rand is like a hell of a family man, has an Eritrean wife, and Eritrea is right next to Ethiopia, used to be part of Ethiopia. And yeah, I just want to say thank you for
No,
being so
absolutely,
welcoming
man.
to
I
us.
mean, look, we're neighbors. You know what I mean? Like when we first introduced, it wasn't a matter of, oh, he has an adopted daughter. It was like, oh, this is a newer neighbor.
Yep.
Hadn't met him. Hey, cool dude. And then you and I started talking. I don't even know if when we first started having our conversation, if I even knew about your daughter, but we had so many other people in common.
Yep.
That was like, oh, this guy's cool as hell. You know what I mean? And then to hear about your daughter, when you learn of stuff like that, it just makes you want to take more of an active part.
Yeah.
Right? Because on the flip side, where you're saying you and your family are raising a black child, you got to think about it. Me and my family have lived in predominantly white areas where we're one of the few.
Yeah.
Right. So a part of the reason for us even moving to this area and was around my daughter to being able to go to the high school that had a higher black population.
Yeah.
Right. And there was moments when we lived out in Cali where each of my daughters were the only black girl in their whole entire grade.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So what Tensei was going through in your household is what my kids go through on a day-to-day basis. And so it was just some commonalities there, and we all able to help each other. And I mean, like you said, man, this community support is why I don't plan on leaving. And moving here, just the camaraderie we have. And I mean, you see it every Friday when we're out at the tailgates for the local high school games. Your sons aren't playing, my sons aren't playing, but there we are. We start over here, but then we end up on the field, and we're into it just as much as the dads who are actually have sons out there. But it's the cool thing where if you're not at the game and your boys or your daughters at the game, you know that there's a watchful eye on them.
That's exactly
And the same thing for me, like, hey, where's your dad? Your dad's not here? How you getting home?
Yeah.
You need a ride? You know how many times I've left that high school and I got 5 teenage dudes in my car, and I'm dropping them all off home. They're not my kids. I have a teenage daughter. I have small boys.
Yeah.
But because I know their parents and hey, are you coming to get them? I'm here. I could bring them home so you don't have to leave to come get them.
Yep.
That's community. You know what I'm saying?
There really is community here. And it's funny when... thinking about racial difference, I think a lot of times people dance around the subject. I've never been like shy about talking about how I really feel, right? And I have a black daughter. I'm like aware that she's not getting exposure to black culture here. And one of my concerns is like, she's going to go to college and be around the black kids who grew up with other black people. And she's going to be like, I'm so out of touch with like the culture. And then, and then she either feels maybe alienated or just tries too hard to ingratiate herself. So I worry about those things. So having people like yourself that are welcoming her and like kind of like taking her under their wing, and people have been incredibly helpful and supportive of her. And that's been a help.
What you're talking about is literally what I still go through, right? Because again, my daughters were raised in predominantly white neighborhoods, white areas, white schools. And so even though they have a black mom, a black dad, and they have black family, there are parts of them where it's like, I don't know that I necessarily fit in one way,
Yeah,
or
that's
the
right.
other, you know what I'm saying? And so when my oldest daughter, she's a junior in college. And so we were like, okay, this is going to be interesting. Where's her friend group going to be? What is that going to look like?
Yeah,
Because at her schools, there weren't a lot of black girls, black boys at her school.
yeah,
And so my daughters have grown to the space where they just have like a multicultural level of
yeah,
friends. But they're still a part of us where we're like, we still need to, ingratiate them into black culture.
yeah.
So you can have like this is going to sound crazy. So for the viewing audience, I think this is my camera right here. Like, please forgive me. Like, my oldest daughter had not seen the movie Friday until she got to college. Right. Now, part of it too is it's a rated R movie. So we kind of follow those guidelines with our kids. So a lot of the quotes from the movies that my wife and I say through the house, she never understood.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
just went over her head. And about a year ago, her and some friends, we were like, you need to watch this movie.
yeah.
And she called us immediately and was like, so much of my childhood is explained now. Like, I get it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But there's, again, there is not just, black kids in a white family. It can still happen for black kids in a black
Of
family,
course.
just based off of the area that they grew up in.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I told you this before, but I was at the game early in the season, and I see your daughter Rhea, and I'm like, "Hey, where's your dad?" She's like, "Oh, he's at a tailgate," and I'm like, "What? Who's having a tailgate?" I said, "What about Derek Quarles? He's there too, Billy Walker." I'm like, "What the hell? Who's having a tailgate?" No one told me. She looks at me, and she goes, "The black people?" And I was like, "No excuse." So
Yeah.
then you guys have been nice enough to include me in all the tailgates thereafter. But man, there's so much fun. I looked forward to Friday nights more than anything all week during the football season. I loved it. I just loved being out there talking to the guys and hanging. It was like,
The best part too about the tailgates, man, is like, it was one of those deals where, obviously it was predominantly like the black dads that kind of put it together. Obviously, most of us are married to black women, so it kind of became like a black family tailgate thing. But as well as I know, if you look to the left, it's of
course.
white families over here. You look to the right, it's white families. But then once the food comes out, it's like you
Everyone-
can't tell who's a part
That's
of
exactly
whose
right.
tailgate because everybody's there. Everybody loves Big Dave's fish
Yep.
plates, and then the kids are over here throwing the football with these people because they all go to school together. So it starts off as three separate, and then especially once we get closer to game time, it just becomes one big tailgate.
You know what's funny about kids? They all of their behavior is learned, right? They don't know racism when they're little, and our kids just growing up in this day and age. My oldest son, when he was maybe in the second or third grade, he's like describing a black kid. He's like, "Dad, the kid with the really good tan. He's got like the dark skin." I'm like, "The black kid?" He's like, "No, he's not black." I'm like, "I know he's not black, but he's like," because I said to Tensei one time when she was a kid, I was like, "Were there any black people there?" And or were there other black people there? She goes, "Why are you calling me black?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Does my skin look black to you? I'm brown." And I was like, all right.
So that's what my kids are. My kids are. They used to. It was brown.
Yeah.
And then it was tan. One of them was like peach. But then because my wife is lighter complected, and so they would call my wife, she's white brown. And she's like, "What? Like you're white brown." And it's so funny because I think of the four kids, two out of the four in the earlier part of their life thought she was white.
Really?
Yeah, because they're like, we see dad's darker.
Yeah.
And they're more closer to my color. And
Yeah.
they look at her and they're like, you're not dark.
That's
So you're white. You might be white, And she's like, you've seen both of my parents. Like, why would you think? But again, it's kids in their mind. Like you said, it's all learned behavior.
I love all the
You know what I mean?
innocence. And to your wife's credit, when she was talking to my wife and I when we first met her, she was like telling us, "Yeah, I make sure I tell these black kids in the high school, like, you see these other black girls, you make sure you're looking out for them." And I was just like, I love that sense of community. It's why I love like the black fraternities. We'll talk about your experience in Florida, but I just like when people really take some ownership of their community and like police it themselves, and they like have respect for each other, and you don't see that in a lot of communities anywhere.
Yeah, and but I think with the changing of communities, if you go back to the '60s, I think the changing of communities kind of forced some of that. Some neighborhoods were overtaken, people kind of pushed in and out of these different neighborhoods. So I think it kind of became that. But I think the big thing is like, you talked about my college experience. You have the HBCUs, the historically black colleges and universities. But then you have, institutions like I went to the University of Florida are predominantly white institutions. Now, granted, on there, I mean, I was a part of the biggest fraternity on campus, which was the football team.
Yeah.
Right? Like, let's start there. But I think the only colors that mattered, at some of these schools are the school colors.
Yeah.
Right? So orange and blue was our big thing. But we knew as a student population that there are 51,000 students on this campus as a whole, but there may only be 3,500 black students.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like everyone knew each other, whether you hung out with each other or not. But it was like, again, that's where that sense of community, like, okay, let's make sure they're good, you know? And,
that's right.
And so that's what it became. And like I said, even having that here, like again, you have perceptions of Nashville, Tennessee, Brentwood, Tennessee, Franklin, Tennessee. You have these perceptions, but when you're actually here and you're ingrained in the community, I think a lot of those things kind of just subside. Again, we have, friends of our kids who on the opposite side of the voting table as we are.
Yeah.
Right. And probably could in a sense have some friction there. You know what I mean? But to have those innocent kids in the middle who all they care about is being able to enjoy their time with their buddies.
Yep.
Like for us parents, it makes you look at stuff different, and like, hey, look, man, you vote how you vote. I'll vote how I vote, but we know that we are raising our kids on this common ground, and that our kids enjoy spending time with each other, being around each other, getting invited to each other's birthday parties, wanting to sleep over at each other's house. And regardless of where you vote, regardless of where your religion lies, you trust me, first of all, as a man, as a husband, as a father, but then you trust me as a black man to have your son at my house, sleep over my house, and you know that your kid's going to be well taken care of. Like, to me, that means more than anything.
Yeah, for sure. People treat politics like religion these days, and it's funny that people would rush to judgment about someone's political views. I have friends that diabolically oppose my views and I theirs. But I'm like, we can agree to disagree. I don't care what you think about that. Like, it's crazy when people let that divide them. Focus isn't just about grinding harder. It's about fueling smarter. When I'm working, training, or recording, I need my brain to show up. That's why I use Ketone IQ. It's clean brain fuel. No caffeine, no crash, just steady mental energy that lasts. It gives your brain what it actually wants. Ketones. They cross the blood-brain barrier to power your neurons directly. No jitters, no drop-off. You just stay locked in longer. For me, it's the difference between pushing through and feeling dialed in. Whether I'm deep in work, on a long run, or traveling, Ketone IQ keeps me sharp, calm, and focused. If you want to think clearer and last longer, head to ketone.com/rideout for 30% off your subscription order, plus a free gift with your second shipment. Fuel your mind like you mean it. Talk about growing up in Key West, because I love this part of your story. Were you on play 7-man football in high school?
No, man. Don't. Damn it! Don't disrespect.
How many kids were at your high school?
So when I was in school, I think we had around 1,300.
Oh, okay. Oh, so it was bigger than I thought.
Yeah, we were a 4A school now.
Oh, okay.
Going into my senior year, we only had like 17 players on the football team to start with.
Right.
Key West is a very small community, small island, 4 miles long, 1 mile wide.
And did you grow up with your dad if he was coaching all those teams?
No, so I was raised by my mom, my stepfather.
Okay, okay.
My stepfather, Robert Goodlow, he was in the military. He was in the Navy for, I think, 26 years.
Yep.
Did 26 years in the military. So we've lived all over. But I call Key West home because up until, me being an adult, it was the longest I've ever lived in one place.
I gotcha.
But man, you talk about a great upbringing. And Key West is another place for me that you talk about. If you were from Key West and you lived on that island, it didn't matter what color you were. Everybody looked out for each other. It was kind of like the old school mentality. If you were over here and you did something, by the time you made it home, your mom knew about it.
Yeah. Or
that this person had the right to whip your ass and then send you home and you got another ass whooping.
Yeah.
And so it was like that type of community. I came from a very close-knit, family, and close-knit community. Like I still go back to Key West. I was just there in August. They named the Kickoff Classic game after me, so I went back for that. and just the outpour of love, right, that I received. I wasn't born in Key West, so if you're born in Key West, they call you a conch.
Yeah.
You're a conch.
Yeah.
And then if you're not from Key West, like born there, but you were raised there and it becomes your home, they call you a freshwater conch.
Yeah.
So I'm really a freshwater conch. But if you saw me with the people, then you would think that I was born and raised there. There are certain families in that community, the Butler family, the Osborne family, the Spotswood family, the Davila family. All these families have like they just brought me in.
Yeah.
You know, particularly the Butler family. My best friend, Curtis Butler, he comes from one of the biggest families in Key West. They have like athletic lore. Like everybody from his family is a great athlete. And we became best friends going into ninth grade because we were the only two freshmen on varsity.
Yeah.
And so we spent a lot of time together. And from there, like, he lived with his aunt, and so she took me in. His grandmother was an administrator at the high school, so she would check in on me. And so, like, I literally became a part of their family. And so now when I go back home, when I just went back home this most recent time, like, I had a moment to sit there and reflect and was like, I don't care what, man, like, Key West is home. Like, I don't care where I'm going to live. Like, it was just love, you know, and you felt it, and it came from a genuine place and had nothing to do with other than me being from there, me being able to accomplish things in life and give that island something to be proud of.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so how'd you end up at Florida?
So my recruiting process was crazy, man. I played varsity as a freshman, really didn't play much. Then my sophomore year, I was having off to a decent year, broke my ankle. Then I was out. Then my junior year, I had a big junior year. I ran for 1,300 yards in like 8-9 games or whatever it was. And then placed second in the state in the 100 meters.
Oh, really? What'd you run?
So my fastest time was a 10:38.
Damn.
And I had my worst race in the state finals. Mind you, I lost to a guy that I had beaten all season.
Yeah.
So that was on me. But
so you got to love about fight day. It's like you can be the best in practice, but on fight night, you got to put it all together.
That's the one thing I loved about track was it was all on me.
Yeah.
I couldn't blame, damn, Ken didn't get his block or he didn't. Nah, it was on me, you know. And so started my junior year, show you how South Florida as a whole football is crazy. We play Coral Gables High. First of all, let me say this. I don't know if a lot of people know this. Going to my senior year, they had the first ever Nike Combine.
Yeah.
And it was at the University of Miami. Anybody who was anybody in South Florida football was there at the time. I go out, I perform well, rank really high amongst the running backs at the camp. Butch Davis, who was the head coach at the University of Miami, him and Don Solinger, who's a longtime running back coach at the University of Miami, they bring me up. They offer me a scholarship. And I'm like, yep, I'm going to the University of Miami. You know, so I tell them, I'm like, hey, I'm about 95% sure I'm coming here. I was like, I want to go home, talk to my folks about it. And I knew, so University of Miami is actually in Coral Gables.
Yep.
Right? We were playing Coral Gables High. So I was like, oh, this is going to be perfect. I was like, first game of the season, I'm going to rush for like 200 yards against Coral Gables. Yeah. I'm going to commit to University of Miami, and I'm going to be done. And I can enjoy the rest of my senior year. And I'm like, I wanted to go to University of Miami just simply because it was close for everybody in Key West to be able to come see me.
Definitely.
Play. Go out, and we're playing Coral Gables High, and I'll never forget, running the stretch play to the right. I can see everything develop, and I'm just pushing one guy, like pushing him to his block, and there's my cut, and it's a house call. So as I'm pushing, I put my foot in the ground to accelerate up the field, and I get a horse collar tackle from the back and snapped everything in front of my ankle. Because my toe was up like this, my momentum was going this way, but my body got pulled back. So I just snapped everything in the front. You know who that person was? Oh, John Vilma. He was, I think Vilma was a junior that year. So that happened. So we go on and we're up in this game, because I don't play the rest of the game, but we're up four points, and there's like 3 seconds left in the game. We score to go ahead. So instead of squib kicking, we kick it off deep, right? So, you know, in high school football, if it reaches the end zone, it's a touchback. You got to bring it from the 20. Well, this ball landed short, and then they took it back to the house.
Oh.
96 for a game winner. You know who that was?
Who?
Frank Gore.
Oh my God.
So Frank Gore.
That's a big dude.
And Frank Gore and John Vilma on the same high school football
Jesus.
team. And so long story short, man, you know, I was being recruited by a bunch of schools. I had a couple track scholarship offers as well. But I tore up my ankle. I went and got MRIs, and I actually got misdiagnosed. They told me I broke the growth plate in my ankle, and that my ankle would grow back to form, and I wouldn't run the same. And I remember reading an article in one of the Scholastic sports magazines. This kid, he donated a kidney to one of his family members, but he was committed to Florida State. And so Florida State honored his scholarship because he couldn't play football anymore. And they were like, hey, look, you still come to school on scholarship, but you'll work with the football program. So for me, I'm like, well, if this is true, like I need to find a way to get into college where my folks don't have to pay for it. And so I'll never forget Rod Broadway. He was the defensive line coach at the University of Florida at the time, went on to become a head coach and successful head coach at the HBCU level. He was recruiting me, and he called me. He was like, hey, man, you know, heard about your ankle. He was like, but we're not worried about it. He was like, we'll determine what's what when you come here on your visit. He was like, but we're going to recruit you harder. He was like, a lot of schools are going to back off, but we're going to recruit you harder. And it was like I was standing there on the phone, and I'm just like, this is my shot to lock in a commitment. And if I can't run again, I can't run again, but at least, you know, I know I'll be able to go to school and get education. So I just told him, I was like, Coach B-Way, I'm coming. And he was like, wait, what? I was like, yeah, I want to be a Gator.
I love it.
And he was like, oh, I wasn't prepared for you to commit. Hold on, let me go get coach. So then I spoke to Coach Spurrier. I spoke to Coach Carl Franks, who was the running backs coach at the time. And I ended up being able to come back and play like the last 3 games of my senior year, and had really good 3 games. And all the schools that backed off all came back calling. And I was like, hell no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, University of Florida stood by me when it was all over in my mind.
Yep.
And so I'm gonna stand by my commitment to them now that I'm well and I know I'll be fine. Now I still ended up needing to get surgery, and I got surgery my freshman year of college, but all to end up being well. But that's how I ended up at UF.
Did you try to run track at Florida?
I ran track. I ran 1 meet at Florida. I was the 3rd leg on the 4x1. Now imagine me coming out in my unitard. You know, the average track athlete is, you know, if they're sprinter.
I had Trey Hardy, 2-time decathlon world champion on the show, so Olympic silver medalist.
So you know the body type. Dude, I was 227, just yoked up in my unitard. I remember we ran in the Sun Devil Classic, and it was, I don't know who the guy is, but he was a sprinter for USC. And, you know, you come out there, you're doing your little stretch, and, you know, he looks at me, and, like, he's just looking at me. And in my mind, I'm looking at him, and I'm picturing him saying, hey, man, the shot putters are down there. Like, you don't belong.
Yeah.
And so I told myself, I was like, I don't give a damn if I beat anybody else in this heat. I'm kicking his ass. Like, he's gonna put some respect on my name today.
Exactly what you're saying.
And man, so I was the 3rd leg, and another football player, Taylor Jacobs, who played wide receiver on our team, he was the anchor. And mind you, that was my first time ever running anything other than anchor.
Yeah.
And so I'm digging this curve, and I'm kicking this little dude's ass.
Yeah.
And then Taylor jumped out ahead of the mark.
Yeah.
And so now I got to try to hit it in another gear that I don't have and pull my hamstring.
Oh my God.
And so we made the exchange or whatever. But then, like, after that meet, I was just sitting there. I was like, to that point, I was like, you know, from a soft tissue thing, I never had a soft tissue in football.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell? And so I was like, nah, because I can't allow track to slow down, because it was going into my senior year.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't allow this to happen. So I just only ran in that 1 meet.
Yeah, that's funny when you think about high performing athletes and guys that move that fast with that kind of agility. I feel like it's like a blessing and a curse. It's like Roy Jones Jr., right? He's electric until he's not. He's so good and so athletic. The minute something is off, that he starts to slow down, and you see him lose that split second, he gets knocked out 1 time, 2 times, and it's over. They get old like in one fight. And with all high performing, I think of like Christian McCaffrey, just a phenomenal athlete, but he's had a lot of injuries. I just don't think you get that kind of productivity out of a body without having it be like susceptible to being injured. It can only take so much force, and you're moving so fast with so much strength that I think that's the problem with a lot of skill positions, is that they're almost like too good for a human body.
Yeah, that's what I felt with Julio Jones.
Yeah.
Like Julio Jones was absolute freak for a person that size, a wide receiver, 6'3". I think at the time when we drafted him in Atlanta, he was probably closer to 230.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, this dude at the combine had a Jones fracture, which is like a fracture of the fifth metacarpal, metatarsal, whatever one it is in the foot. Still ran a 4.3.
It's so crazy.
And then had to get surgery. He came back, and I just remember his first time being out on the practice field as an Atlanta Falcon, and me and a couple scouts were standing there, and he runs by us, right, running a route. And no bullshit, this is God's honest truth. When he ran by like your body did, like this.
Like a truck going by.
And I looked at other guys, I was like, did y'all feel that? And I was like, but it explained it. Like, his body wasn't meant for that amount of force.
Yeah.
Right? Because not only was he big and he was fast, but he could just slam his foot in the ground and get in and out of breaks because he was so strong in his lower body. I'm like, his poor feet weren't meant to handle that much force. It was, but like you said, man, some of these guys are just freaks of nature.
You know, you were talking about track and being out there and competing. There's no one out there but you. My youngest son does jiu-jitsu, and now he's wrestling. And he just went to a first wrestling tournament. And as a dad, it's super hard to watch a kid out there wrestling because you're like, get him, Cameron, do this, do that, you know. But the hardest thing for me is explaining to him, like, if you're afraid to lose, you never get to win, because no one, especially in a sport like wrestling or jiu-jitsu where you're grappling, and like we were talking about earlier, if you never go, like with fighting, if you don't ever get in with better people, you can't get better, which means you're going to lose a lot of one-on-one battles in the struggle to become the best. And he went in there, he pinned the first person, and then his next opponent was a little girl. And you could just see she knew how to wrestle. And at that age, you know, boys and girls, they're the same. And he has done jiu-jitsu with girls, so he knows girls can kick ass. Right. He's like not oblivious. So I was like, hey, you know, she's good. Like, she's got experience. You got to be intense. Don't forget that she's a girl. Like this, you're in the same tournament. You go hard. So he's going, he's getting her, and he's winning. And he made one little mistake because he's inexperienced. And this girl was good. And he made a mistake. She like did this reverse move and ended up on top of him. And then the ref just quickly pinned him. And when he went down, he banged his nose. So he gets up, his nose is gushing blood. He's crying because he's embarrassed, right? He's 10. And he comes over and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to lose him. Like, he's going to be like, Dad, I want to get out of here. Like, he's embarrassed. And he just went back and he was like pouting, like, get away from me. And I'm like, buddy, calm down. We got another match to do. Like, get your shit together. Like, get it together. And I could have lost him there. And he pulled it together. At one point, I had like a friggin' tampon stuck in his nose that they, you know, they give him to you with a thing. He's like, I'm like, hold this in your nose. First, he's like, get that out of here. I'm not using that. And then he eventually puts the thing in his nose. He stops bleeding. He goes out and pins the next kid, gets second in the tournament. But it was like such a valuable experience. Like, that part of like the athletic process of not being afraid to fail. And I've done it myself, like going out and doing races and getting killed and being like, I never want to feel that way again. And that's like sprinting and racing. I mean, some guys are just genetic freaks and they never lose, but I think that's all part of the process, is not being afraid to get out there and have things like that can happen. You know, you pull a hamstring, you lose a race. And especially when you're moving up in levels from like Key West, now you're racing at Florida. It's like,
big difference.
Big difference.
You know what's cool, and to hear you say that, you know, the trail that you run over by my house and where I saw you at?
Yeah, of course.
I took the boys on a 4-mile walk.
Yeah.
Right. So we walked that and we ended up by Big Dave's house. And it was 4 miles, and I'm talking about a 7-year-old and an 8-year-old, and they were huffing and puffing, and they were pissed off. And so I use that as a teachable moment.
Yeah.
So we get back on the part of the trail where you're just coming off of Wilson Pike, and there's this little bench. Yeah. And so I'm like, hey, look, at this point, it's mind over matter. Yeah. I'm like, you're only tired because you're allowing it, you know. And I'm like, all right, look, there's a bench coming up. I said, we're about 100 yards away from a bench. You want to sit down? I said, we can sit for 10 minutes, let you guys catch your breath, or we can keep going. They were like, keep going. So I was like, okay, it's taking a step in a positive direction. So we get there, and I'm like, sit or keep going. Keep going. And I'm talking to him the whole way. I'm like, listen, I was like, I promise you guys, we're not far from home. I said, but your mind has told you that this is hard because you don't know where you are.
That's right.
I'm like, but we're going to get to a point in this where you're going to know where you are and your brain is going to automatically calculate how far you are from home. I said, and watch how easy it gets.
Yep.
So we're walking and we come right out, we dump right back out. And like their mood was like, but I was like, you see what I mean? And they were like, no, you were right. I was like, so next time when because they're playing basketball now, you're on the court and you don't feel like you could push. I said, just remember this walk.
Yeah.
Just remember this walk that you actually can go. And so it's been cool because ever since that moment, they now want to do hard things.
Yeah.
And so we go out in the driveway now and I'm getting them used to using the backboard. You know, all these kids, they want to be Steph Curry. So they want to swish the ball. They want to shoot threes. I'm like, we're not that good. You know, we need to be under the basket, kiss it off the backboard.
Yeah.
So I just take them out in the driveway and I do these little drills where I put the ball in the corner. I have them dribble and I tell them left or right.
Yeah.
And you got to go do a layup on that side. And I get them tired. Then I put them on the free throw line. I'm like, all right, you got to make 3 free throws in a row. If you miss, you got to give me 5 push-ups. But it's like I do it, but they're learning now, and I'm teaching them how to like you're a marathon runner. It's that part of the race where you got to find that inner peace where you can calm your body down. And then now I have them running laps around the neighborhood. You know, I'm like, okay, you missed the layup. All right, give me a lap. And then as soon as they're coming back up the driveway, I toss them the ball and I'm like, left side. And then, all right, now to the free throw line. And so my 8-year-old, he's getting it. He's like, oh, I know what my dad's doing. And but it's working because they're starting to see it and they're starting to realize that they are in more control in terms of using their mind and not allowing it to defeat them.
Yep. It's definitely a struggle raising little boys and trying to push, but not push too much where they're like, oh, my dad's a sports nut, right? Like you've had a lot of success in sports, so you don't need to live vicariously through your kids. And that's how I feel. Like I have my own things. Like I know who I am. They're not me. They're a combination of me and their mom. Like some of them might not have an intensity for contact sports, and the little one, he does. And maybe the other ones develop it. I told them, like, I was never felt like a tough kid when I was little. I taught myself that if you don't start getting tougher, you're going to get run over. I was playing high school football and I was a quarterback and I was running with the ball and I just got tackled, like basically just let myself get tackled. And the coach goes, Jesus Christ, you can take a hit. He's like, does it ever occur to you to run like you want to kill somebody? And from that moment on, I was like, oh, I can actually hit them while I'm running. It hadn't even occurred to me. And I was like, just started running with a little more intention. All right, guys, it's been about 6 months since I started taking Liposomal NAD Plus from Row Nutrition. And I've got to say, I'm absolutely loving this stuff. The biggest thing I've noticed, my energy levels stay consistent all day. No highs, no crashes. I'm not reaching for 3 cups of coffee just to get through the afternoon. I'm sleeping better, recovering better, and honestly, I just feel sharper. NAD Plus fuels your cells. It drives mitochondrial function, recovery, and cognitive performance. The science is solid, but for me, it's simple. I feel better, I train better, I show up better. What I like about Row is that they don't cut corners. Every batch is third-party tested, so what they say is in it is actually in it. And their liposomal delivery system helps your body actually absorb the stuff. Pro athletes, trainers, and health experts are making Row's NAD Plus a staple of their routine because it works. NAD Plus from Row Nutrition. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Give it a shot. Right now, you can try it risk-free for 60-day money-back guarantee. Plus, get 20% off with code RIDEOUT at checkout. Again, that's 20% off at rownutrition.com/rideout. Coming out of Florida, did you get drafted or undrafted free agent?
Undrafted. I went undrafted free agent to the Indianapolis Colts.
What was that experience like showing up at training camp there?
Humbling, because every football player, whether you sign in high school or you're in college, you're like, oh no, I'm gonna be a first round pick. Yeah. Like, so first of all, you go from, in my mind, I got to a point though where I was like, maybe I won't be a first round pick, but I'll get drafted.
Yeah.
Then you don't get drafted, and then you show up to NFL training camp. And there's Edgerrin James, there's Dominique Rhodes, that's in my actual position room. But then you look out, it's Marvin Harrison, it's Reggie Wayne, it's Brandon Stokely, it's Peyton Manning, it's, Dallas Clark, it's Dwight Freeney, it's Bob Sanders. You see all these great dudes, And I'm watching Edrin James go through the ladder and do one of our position drills. And I was like, yeah, I can't do that. I was like, I don't have that ability. Like, my feet don't work like that. Then I watched Dominique Rhodes. So I'm actually sizing dudes up. So I'm like, okay, he's good. Like, Edrin James, like, can't take his spot. So I was like, let me see what this Dominique Rhodes guy. Dominique is one of the quicker guys that I've ever seen. I'm like, nope, can't do that. So then I put my eyes on James Mungrove, and no disrespect to my man Mungrove, if you see this, I love you, Muns. But I'm like, oh yeah, I could compete with him.
Yeah.
I could compete with this guy. But I just had to find my way. And so I went through that training camp, actually got cut, and ended up signing to the Dallas Cowboys practice squad. Now, ironically enough, my dad was the running backs coach there.
Oh, man. So how was that for pressure?
That was the worst damn experience in my life.
Because the pressure's got to be on both of you.
It wasn't even pressure. It wasn't no pressure from my side. It was just, if you know my dad, and any player he's ever coached can verify this, his style of coaching was that old school.
And were you guys close when you were growing up? Was he like a present in your life?
Well, we got closer. We got closer the older I got. But by this time, we're like, that's my guy. That's my dude. And I remember just at one day at practice, Roy Williams, the all-pro safety out of Oklahoma, he was, I was running a scout team, and so he was coming on a blitz. And so I stepped in his direction, but they're working on their timing, so I just let him go. So my dad, oh, you gonna get the damn quarterback killed. You didn't block your man. So I'm like, I know that this is, like, if it was our protection, I know that this would be my guy in protection. So I'm like, all right, whatever, on me, my bad.
And it's a full contact drill?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're a couple plays later, they do something else, kind of same.
Funny thing is, if you hit him too hard and he gets hurt, you'll be like, "Are you trying
I'm getting there." So then Roy comes again. I butt him up, and I'm blocking him, and then he's doing all the extra, hands to the face stuff. So now I'm like, "Oh, you gonna let the motherfucker punk you, and you're not gonna stand up for you?" So I'm like, "God damn, like I can't do anything right." So
people who don't play football, man, can't comprehend how aggressive and like violent these practices are.
It's a car crash.
And the coach is in there screaming at you like that, like antagonizing fights.
And so we get to it was much later in practice. So now Roy comes, I butt him up, and now I'm trying to drive him into the ground.
Yeah.
Oh, you're trying to hurt the damn all-pro safety. So at that point, I just turn. I'm like, man, shut the fuck up. And so now we have this back and forth.
Oh,
right?
dang.
We're going back and forth. And Coach Parcells is like, all right, that's enough. So Richie Anderson was our starting fullback, and that's one of my dad's guys. He had been with my dad multiple places. He walks me to the side. He's like, hey, little bro, like, man, Pops loves you, and you just he's got to coach you hard. He's got to show everybody he's going to be just as hard on you as he is on us.
That's what I mean about the pressure. It's got to be hard for him.
But still, he wasn't under no damn pressure. He was just an asshole. And so now we're like, I'm kind of calmed down. And then my dad yells over there, hey, Richie, slap him. Slap his ass. And I'm like, no, you slap me. So now we're going. So again, I'm talking about this is Dallas Cowboy team that's Keyshawn Johnson is on, Larry Allen, Flozell Adams, Leroy Glover. So Keyshawn, I remember Keyshawn like, ooh, like, Mo, you gonna let him talk to you like that? You gonna let him talk to you like that? So it was like, whatever, practice is over. So now I'm pissed.
Yeah.
So I'm like, man, I'm going to go home. I'm going to study. Like, he's not going to be able to say shit to me. I'm going to make sure I'm on my stuff. Mind you, I'm living with him, right? I'm living with him. So I remember going home, and I got my playbook out. I got my notepads, my highlighters. Like, I'm just doing everything, making sure I know I'm converting it from, okay, I learned it in this language. This is this. So I'm doing all this work. I mess around and doze off. So I hear the alarm, front door, like, let you know. But my cousin lived with us also. So I'm thinking, it's 4:00, 4:30. Like, oh, it's got to be my cousin. I wake up to a slap. And I'm like, oh, shit. And then I look up, and it's my dad.
Oh, my God.
And he's like, I slapped you, now what?
He's fucking crazy.
So I started laughing. So he's like, "What you laughing for? I just slapped you. What you gonna do?" And I'm laughing. I said, "Man, I won." "How did you win and I slapped you and you didn't do anything?" I said, "Because this has been on your mind since I said it." I said, "To the point that you left work to come here and do this." I said, "Guess what? Now you got to take your ass back to work." And he was just looking at me. He was like furious. I said, "Matter of fact," I said, "you better take your ass back to work before I call Coach Parcells and tell him you're not in the building." And he looked at me. He was like, "Fuck you." And then he left. But it was funny because a week later, the Indianapolis Colts called me back and wanted to sign me to the roster, to the active roster.
Oh, nice.
Because I was on the Cowboys practice squad
Yep.
and Edgerrin James had tweaked his hamstring. And so I get a call from my agent and he's like, "Hey, this is what's going to happen." And then my dad came home and he's like, "Son," he was like, "Coach sent me here to talk you into staying." He was like, "But as your dad, I'm telling you to take it."
Yeah.
He was like, "You got to take it." He was like, "It's money. Money on the active roster. You had the opportunity to play and show people what you can do." He was like, "But for our relationship, like you got to go."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was like, no, I was leaving no matter what.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it was a cool opportunity to be able to be coached by my dad. You know what I'm saying? And it was just like one of those unique things. Would I ever want that to happen? Absolutely. Again, like if I could go back and rewind the time, I would have never signed with Dallas. But it was a cool moment that we can say that we had. And we laugh about it now. You know what I mean? But so I end up going back to Indy. Long story short, I played for 5 teams over 3 years.
Yep.
Colts, Cowboys, Seattle, Green Bay, Detroit were the 5 teams. I played in, I don't know how many games I actually played in real NFL games, but they were all with the Colts. So I had several stints with the Colts. They would always bring me back. But, I mean, those teams that I played on with the Colts, man, you talking about a grad school of learning football.
Yeah.
To be in a room.
Peyton Manning was the quarterback?
Peyton Manning was our quarterback. To be in a room and hear Peyton Manning talk football. I mean, some of the coaches who were on that staff. I mean, Tony Dungy was our head coach. Jim Caldwell, who was the head coach at the Colts and at the Lions, he was the quarterback's coach. Tom Moore, who in my opinion, who he actually just retired yesterday, was one of the greatest offensive coordinators ever, coaching this business. He was our offensive coordinator. If you go to the Colts arena, I just almost called it RCA Dome because that's what it was called back then. But if you go to Lucas Oil Field now and you look on their Ring of Honor, about 8, 9 of those guys whose names are in the Ring of Honor were all on the same team.
It's crazy. Yeah, they were awesome. It's unfortunate Peyton was there at the same time as Tom Brady.
Yeah. And so, I mean, we had Hall of Fame GM and Bill Polian, Hall of Fame head coach Tony Dungy. Peyton's in the Hall, Marv's in the Hall, Edrin's in the Hall, Dwight Freeney just went in the Hall. So that's just 6. But then other guys that are in the Ring of Honor, Jeff Saturday, Tarek Glenn.
I love Jeff Saturday on TV.
Robert Mathis, Dwight Clark, Dallas Clark, excuse me. All those guys were all on the same teams. Like they just built a great team, great culture. It was a team. And that's where I learned like culture building. That was a team that policed itself.
Yeah.
If a guy got out of line, Coach Dungy didn't have to do anything because guys would police it themselves. And so we were a close, tight-knit team. Again, I was a guy that was on practice squad roster, on and off. But if you saw all of us together, you would think that I was a high-round draft pick that played a ton of ball.
Yeah.
Just because of the closeness and the relationships. And it's not even just with the teammates, it's with the organization as well.
Yeah.
So I've always had, a soft place in my heart for the Indianapolis Colts organization. And my dad and I, because my dad retired in 92 as a player with the Indianapolis Colts, I think to present day, we're one of 5 father and son combinations have played for the organization.
Wow. That is, I have tremendous respect for guys that bounce back and forth between the practice squad and active roster because those guys are probably working harder than everyone else. Everyone's working hard or you won't be in the NFL if you don't work hard. Very few guys skate by on talent alone. There are probably some that are super talented and could work harder. But you see a guy like Tom Brady. If you see Tom Brady like running around the track or in the weight room, no one's going to be like, that's that guy. He's the best. He's the GOAT.
Yeah.
You see him captaining that offense down the field. You're like, this guy's got eyes in the back of his head. It's like watching Tony Romo call a game when he's like, the slot back's in motion, the tight end's cracking. They're going to throw it out here to the running back. Boom, every time. And I'm like, this guy is like anticipating everything that's happening. And that's what I love about the great quarterbacks. They're like calling the game in real time. Same with like Peyton Manning. When I was a kid, I used to have a reoccurring dream that I would wake up and I'd wake up in the middle of this and I would be about to walk onto the ice for the Boston Bruins with my name on the jersey and be like, and then I'd wake up and I'm like, God damn it, this isn't really happening. I wanted to be a professional athlete more than anything. I played competitive hockey as a kid, so the Bruins was the most realistic. But I mean, I absolutely love the Boston sports teams, but I'm going to get into sports lunatics in your experience as a GM in a minute because people are fucking crazy. But did you have any moments like that where you're like walking on the field with a Dallas Cowboy helmet on just to even one practice? A lot of these things, like I've won races and people are like, dude, winning a race, I'd do anything to win a race. But it's like one of those things where you've done it a few times and you just start to easily take it for granted. Did you have moments during your career where you're like, I got a fucking Green Bay helmet on. I got a Green Bay jersey with my name on the back. Like, did you have moments like that where you're like, I did it?
Not in the NFL because I was never comfortable in my space in the NFL, right? Because I was a fringe guy.
Yep.
And so I never would allow myself to get caught up in that. I mean, think about it. I played Green Bay, Dallas, like two of the most storied franchises, in all of sports, but it never occurred to me. I just remember probably the one moment I could think about was my last college game. And we played Florida State, my last home game, rather, in the Swamp in Gainesville. And I couldn't take the field because I was crying so hard. And I'm not an emotional person that way. But I just remember it was senior night, and, they do the whole ceremony thing. You run out to your family or whatever. But I just remember, because I always led the team out of the tunnel. And so I just remember before we came out of the tunnel, I stood there. And I kind of walked out a little bit ahead and I'm just looking at the crowd and it's 90,000 people. And I'm like, this is going to be the last time I run through this tunnel. And then I'm looking at my teammates and I'm just thinking about like the year we had. And I always did a thing where I sprinted all the way down to the opposite side of the field, to the back of the other end zone. And then I would just go and high five the fans back there. And I just remembered that moment. And so I get on the sideline, and one of my really good friends, Tavares Washington, God rest his soul, he put his arm around me, and he was like, man, thank you. Thank you for everything. And again, I'm looking around, and I just start bawling. But it wasn't just like tears, and it was like and that was the one moment where I was like, man, I was really here.
Yeah.
At the University of Florida, in the Swamp, 90,000 people in this day, 90,000 people know my name.
Yeah.
And it's because I had this helmet on and this orange and blue. But that was the only moment, because again, my status in the NFL wasn't concrete enough for me to enjoy it. Had I been a player that signed a real free agent deal to Green Bay or to Dallas, then I could be like, wow. But I never allowed myself to go there as a pro.
That's the thing about the college fans. I can understand they're like, that's their school. Everyone's into it. But the fans in the NFL, I love the Patriots. I want to see them win more than anything. But I couldn't name more than 5 guys on the team. It's like not my life. It's like for 3 hours on Sunday, I'm a lunatic. I'm like, let's go. We're killing them, guys. Get in here. We're going to win. Of course, my kids can't root for anyone except the Patriots. And they're like, Dad, we're not from Boston. We've never even lived in Boston. But when I see some of these fans, and we'll get into your experience as an exec, it's just like, you're not on the team, right? You know that most of those guys aren't even from this area. They work. Like, you might as well go down and scream in front of McKinsey and Company and cheer on the consultants. I'm like, your chair of guys are doing their job. They're like, so sometimes I just see people getting lost in or fighting at a game. I'm like, you're going to fight with a guy who's rooting for the other team? Are you insane? It's fucking crazy.
Well, we always have to remember that fan is short for fanatic.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So that kind of is what it is. And I've been a part of some crazy fan bases. I know our Florida Gator fan base is crazy. The 49er faithful, they're crazy. A lot of these fan bases are crazy, where I feel like the line should be drawn. Like, there's no one, I don't care what you may feel about an exec or a head coach or a quarterback or a player, whomever, no one takes the football field trying to lose.
Exactly.
Right? Everyone gives their entire best to build a franchise, to coach a franchise, to play for a franchise, to give the people something in that city and that state to be happy about, right? No one wants to go through life and not win.
Yep.
But I think where the line should be drawn is when these players, us execs, these coaches, when we're out and we're trying to enjoy ourselves as a family. Now, I thank God this has never happened to me, because I honestly don't know how I would respond to it. But like, I've seen it happen to people where they're like, "Oh, you suck." And I'm like, whoa, like,
Yeah.
whatever you do for a living, me as a citizen, if I went to your job
Yep.
and I told you, and I'm screaming at you in your place of work that you suck, I think we all have to just, there's a fine line.
That's right.
And I do understand that these people are spending their hard-earned money, and this is their moment to decompress and detox from whatever they have going on in their life, but again, it's one of those situations where it's a really fine line. And I think, and because I'm a fan of places too, like we have to think about it. I hate, even now with me doing TV and we're evaluating players, or not just in TV, just me talking to my friends about players, and I hear people say stuff, "Oh man, that guy, he sucks."
Which is crazy.
He
if you
sucks.
if you know who he is, he definitely doesn't suck.
But not only that, and I tell this to my cousin all the time. I have a cousin I talk to literally every day, and we start talking about players, and I know he loves it, and he actually understands it. But I tell him, like, at your best, you couldn't give this guy a shitty performance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so no matter what we think, we have to. This is something I learned from the NBA champion James Jones, a longtime NBA player, played with the Heat, won championships there, played in Cleveland. He's a front office executive now for the Phoenix Suns. He has this rule. He calls it the 21-3 rule, right? So in the NBA, they're only in the building as players for 3 hours a day. And he taught me, he said, we all have a strange way of seeing these guys as players for 24 hours a day, when in actuality, they're only players when they're doing their job and in the
That's
building.
right.
He was like, so for the other 21, they're people. They're humans. And so, again, you know how I am in terms of relationship building. I didn't necessarily have a name to put on it, but then I adopted it. Now in the NFL, we have them for much longer. But I always said, you know what? All the resources that we've put in to identify this player, understand this player, we need to put in equal resources to understand the person, because they're going to be people longer than they are players. And so I think for fans, I think if you want to yell like you said, and go crazy for those 3 hours that you're at that game, but once that game is over, I'm not saying leave it, but that person, when they walk out of that gate, when they leave that stadium and that field, they're human now. And I think it's so much responsibility falls on players, that players are supposed to maintain this high level of composure.
Yes.
When you're constantly being attacked, right? And as well as I know, in the wild, there's animals that could take a lot of shit, but then you back them up into that corner, and then finally when they lash out, and in my opinion, you don't get to play the victim.
That's right.
Because you've provoked this, you know what I'm saying? And so we have to just find a way to be respectful of these players. Because again, whether you're a Baltimore Ravens fan, Tyler Loop did not miss that kick on purpose.
That was, when that guy missed, I couldn't care less who wins that game. When he missed that kick, I wanted to cry for him, because I'm like, that guy has trained his whole life for that moment. And it just sucks because, like you said, a non-kicker on his best day with 100 tries couldn't make that kick, and the guy just missed, and you're like, oh, that. And I mean, they fire Harbaugh. I'm like, this is crazy. That guy missed a field goal. I saw a montage of a bunch of things that have happened to Baltimore over the years. Like, they're about to win a conference title. a tight end drops a ball in the end zone. All these little split-second decisions and little, like, fraction of a second errors. And Harbaugh could have had like multiple championships, but he didn't. But he's like, the guy's so consistent. As a Patriots fan, when I see Baltimore on the schedule, I'm like, oh, They have to play Baltimore. Damn
Yeah.
it. There's no layups there. They're
Yeah.
just tough. You're going to get the Ray Lewis type guy, like
No,
they just have that reputation.
I agree. And I look at, because there was a lot of talk this whole season. Is Harbaugh going to be fired? Is Mike Tomlin going to be fired? Mike Tomlin's never had a losing
I know,
season.
it's crazy.
But people are calling for, someone's job. And I've always taken that personally. Obviously, I've seen my dad go through it. I've seen my dad get fired. And my dad used to always say, son, if you're worth a damn in this league, you'll get fired at least once.
Yep.
But I'm like, yeah, that sounds good in theory, but nobody wants to be fired, right?
Exactly.
But, for a guy like Mike Tomlin who's been consistent, and again, I'm not making excuses for him. I'm just basing it off of the record. Like, again, you're sitting home, you're wishing that this man loses his livelihood.
Yeah.
And I get it. Again, you're a fan of this team, of this organization, or whatever sport you're talking about. But what you fail to realize is the domino effect it has.
Yep.
Right? So the domino effect, coach gets fired. Now the coach has to go home and explain this to his family. How's this going to affect his kids? And then now this really uproots the family, because now you may have a kid in their junior year of high school that if coach says, hey, look, no, my family stays together, we move now. Senior in high school has to go to a brand new situation, doesn't know anybody. Like, these are all things that happen when we wish for these people to get fired for other than a win or a loss.
Yeah.
And
Well, the other thing that pisses me off about Tomlin in particular is when people try to make the coach about race, and they're like, as another black coach, I think it was the guy from Notre Dame that they were asking about, how's it feel about black coach? He's like, I'm just a coach. Like, you're putting that shit on me. I'm just coaching. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think about it like that. I'm not trying to be a trailblazer. I'm trying to be the best person I can be. It's crazy to me that the media puts these like tags on. Like, what's the difference if he's black or white? Like, the guy's a coach.
Well, I will say, I'll say this much, having experienced it with my dad, like, black coaches have had it hard.
For sure.
To get the opportunity. My dad was one of the, you familiar with the Rooney Rule, right?
Of course.
My dad was one of the original coaches to go through that whole Rooney Rule cycle. And I remember.
But when they have to bring in black coaches for interviews.
Well, now, black, yes. But the proverbial word now is minority. So it's, and even that, like, again, I've always said wording matters.
Yeah.
And so you better understand, like minority is like, if a black person walked in this room right now, by definition, you would be the minority.
Yeah, of course.
In this room. And so to me, if it's meant for black coaches, say black coaches. If it's whatever it's meant for, just say it, because minority becomes a catch-all, and now it can include a whole bunch of other things that you didn't intend for. But anyway, I grew up seeing, when my dad was going through the head coaching interview cycle, I remember calling him in this one particular search. And he had just finished his interview, and I called him. He was like, hey, man, I'm getting in the car. I'll call you when I get to the airport. So he calls me from the airport, and I'm excited. I'm like, how'd it go? And he was like, I'm not getting that damn job. And I'm like, yo, with an attitude like that, you're not getting it. I'm like, I hope you didn't go into it with that type of attitude that you are already lost. He was like, no. He was like, son, there are just things in life that you don't understand.
Yeah.
And I was like, look, I got time today. You're going to have to tell me. And he was like, nah. He was like, we don't have time today. He was like, but whatever you decide to do in life, after you're done playing, he was like, you'll experience it. He was like, but there are just things in life. And so what was funny was, obviously, I get on the executive side of things, and then the Rooney Rule becomes an even bigger topic.
Yeah.
Right? And they expand the Rooney Rule to now extend out to front office executives. And it was then that, you started to see the landscape of things and how things were shaking out. And I was like, this is what he was talking about.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And when I say that, by the way, I don't mean to say that, like, I think that back in the day, like, black guys weren't getting a fair shake. But I think now, I mean, you know it better than I do, but when I see it, I'm like, yo, who's the best guy for the job?
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. I know it still happens, so you're obviously much more aware of it than I am. But I'm like, I just hate that they always refer to, like, Tomlin's race when they talk about him. Like, he's the black coach. That's what I feel like. That's the message that I always get whenever they talk about him. I'm like, the guy's been there for how long? Who gives a shit what race he is? He's like, anyone who can connect with the players. And if most of the players are black, like, you might want a guy that connects with them. Like Mike Vrabel, whether he's black or white, the coaches love him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but obviously you have a unique perspective perspective on this, let's talk about your experience as an exec. How did you get into being executive from going from a running back and forth on trout on the practice squad, fighting for every friggin' season? How'd you make the decision to go into the exec role, and how did it happen?
So,
And I guess you knew a little bit because of your dad being there.
yeah,
So you
my
knew.
my dad always personnel was something he always pushed me towards because it was what he originally wanted to do. He wanted to be a scout and work in the front office.
And everyone starts as a scout, right?
Well, sometimes it's an intern, sometimes it's a scouting assistant. So there's various roles that you can get into. But my dad, Parcells made him coach.
Okay.
So that's how he got the coaching. So back when I was in college, we have this thing called Pro Day. So it's where all the NFL scouts come to see all the prospects from their school. So if my dad came to Gainesville, then I would chart all of his 40 times, broad jumps, heights, weights. I would chart all of that stuff for him. And I'm kind of just walking around with him, doing all the work. And if he didn't come and another coach from his staff came, he would make me get up in the morning, go watch film with that coach, meet him at our offices, watch film with that coach, talk to him about my teammates and whoever they were coming to see. And so I had that already in my mind. And it's funny because when I first met my wife, that was what I told her I wanted to be, was a GM of a team. And she said, she looked at me, was like what? Like, you barely go to class. Like, how are you going to?
You met her, by the way, at Florida.
At Florida, yeah, we met.
What was
Florida.
she studying?
She's a public relations major.
Okay.
And then I ended up being a sociology major.
That's me too.
And so she picked up a sociology minor to make sure I was going to class.
That's funny.
But so that was, and then like from there, like in even going back to high school, I would go get all the magazines, draft magazines, and I would sit in my, back in the day, you had those big floor model TVs.
Yeah.
I would sit in front of my TV and I would just watch the draft. I would record the draft. I would watch the draft. And again, and this was before obviously my dad put a name to it. I didn't realize what I was doing at the time, but I was trying to predict who was going to go where based off of what I had read. And so I remember it's probably my second year in the league, going into the off season. I remember reaching out to Bill Polian, the GM of the Colts, and I was like, hey, Mr. Polian, I'm going to be here this off season. I'm not going anywhere. Like, is it possible for me to come up and watch film with the scouts? And he was like, oh, we've never done that before. I was like, that's fine that you've never done it before. Like,
that's right.
I'm going to be here. You're paying me, this off-season money to be here. Like, can I just get some extra work in? And so I pestered him about it to the point where he was like, finally, like, yes, you can come up, but you can't repeat what you saw, and so I would go up and I would sit with their scouts and watch film. And then I would always read the scouting reports that we would get from their scouts for our upcoming opponent. So fast forward, I decided I was done playing. I went back to University of Florida to finish my my last two classes. Urban Meyer was the head coach of Florida at the time. And shout out to Urban, because he was just like, hey, man, you can come around. You can do whatever you want. Whether you want to sit in recruiting, you want to come sit in the coaches' meetings, you can do what you want, whatever the case may be. And I ended up sitting in recruiting with Terry Jackson and Mark Pantoni. Mark Pantoni's now the GM at Ohio State.
Yeah.
And so I would sit in with those guys. We would watch film, we would talk through players. And so that's where I started to meet NFL scouts. The other thing I did too, which was just me hustling, I knew I didn't want to play, but I hadn't turned in any like retirement papers.
Yep.
And so a team would call and they'd have me come in and do a tryout. And so I would take the tryout, but I was using that tryout as a way to meet the GM and say, hey, I want to do what you do one day. Because in my mind, I was like, how else am I going to meet a GM and try to get one of these jobs? So fast forward, I go to training camp with, not training camp, it was a mini camp tryout with the Atlanta Falcons. And Bobby Petrino was the head coach. And Les Snead, he was the director of pro personnel for the Falcons at the time. Les is now the GM at the Rams. He's probably one of the longest tenured GMs, probably third somewhere in there behind Mickey Loomis and John Schneider. But I met Les because he called me in on, on the way we were leaving, and he was like, hey, man, we're not going to sign you. I was like, hey, man, that's cool. But can I get your card? Because I want to do what you do one day. And fast forward, I graduated from college. I had my agent reach out to some teams that he had relationships with, one of them being the Falcons. And Les remembered the conversation that we had. So he was like, hey, man, we'll fly you up, for an interview, because they had just hired Thomas Dimitroff to be the GM. He's like, we don't have anything. He was like, I just want to meet you.
Yeah.
We can have a conversation. They flew me up, and we met for like 4 hours. And I met a guy named Lionel Vitale, and I have to tell you this story because it shows the importance of relationships. Lionel Vitale, one of the most respected talent evaluators in the NFL, right? If you know Lionel, he's got these big eyes and he's like this intense dude. So he's kind of intimidating. So I'm in Les's office and we're talking through some players. So Lionel knocks on the door and he comes in. He's like, hey, Les, can I get a couple minutes by myself? And mind you, we're in Les's office.
Yeah.
And so Les is like, yeah, sure, LV. So Les leaves and Lionel sits down and he's like, and like I said, he's intense. He starts telling me this story. He was like, I was a no-name rookie out of Nickel State. He said, I signed with the team because their running back, he was like trying to get a new contract. He was like, I didn't know shit. No one knew me. He said, but I went in there, I busted my ass, and I made the team. And there was a vet. He took me under his arm, taught me the playbook, bought me a suit or something like that. And he was like, but he didn't know me from the guy next door. But for whatever reason, he took a liking to me and took care of me. You know who that was? And I was like, nah. He was like, it was your father. He was like, so if your father was an asshole to me, you wouldn't be here right now. And he was like, so for that, I'm going to put my name on the line for you. He was like, but let me tell you something. Your dad created a name for himself in this league. And before I let you fuck that up, you're going to have to deal with me. So I was like, damn, like.
That's an awesome story.
And so long story short, I got the job.
Yep.
Right. And I wasn't an intern. I wasn't a scout because I originally was interviewing for scouting assistant.
Yep.
But they hired me as a pro scout.
Yep.
And so it was in that moment where I really started to learn. Well, I knew the importance of relationships, but what really stood out to me was the groundwork that my dad laid. And I don't even know that my dad did it intentionally.
Yep.
Right. But for me, it was like, okay, moving forward, my dad, his name, his legacy got me to this position. So I have to take this, carry it, maintain a good name, a good image, because now I know I have kids coming behind me.
Yep.
Right. And I want someone to look and say, Carthon, wait, you Rand's kid?
Yeah.
You know what, man, your dad did this. I got you. Come on.
Yeah.
I want to be able to set that groundwork, for my kids. And so that's why I go through life the way I go through life. I'm, always trying to mentor people, always trying to help out. And a lot of times I know it comes across as unbelievable when I'm trying to bring two worlds together and I'm like, hey, I don't want anything.
Yeah.
I just know that you need to meet Ken and Ken needs to meet you. And from there, y'all do what y'all do. Whatever comes from it. I just know I'm the conduit. Like, I know that was my part in it.
Yeah.
And so I've made my name in the NFL just being a trustworthy and reliable person that people know that if my name is either attached to it, is good, or that, at the end of the day, if we need someone to find out something for us or help us with something, like, we can always go to Rand. Like, that's why, I move the way I move because of that. And just that one story that I learned on the job interview.
I always tell young kids in business now, I'm like, and just young professionals in general, I'm like, your reputation is going to go with you everywhere you go. So you might be like the junior salesperson at Microsoft right now, but the guy sitting next to you on either side, they may be the CEO of Intel in 5 years, 10 years. I'm telling you, when you're on the scout team and when you're a practice squad, all those other guys, like, you never know. You want to be a scout someday, that guy may be the GM somewhere. You just never know where you're going to cross paths with people. So establishing a good reputation early in your career and maintaining that integrity and character throughout your career matters.
Yeah.
Because, I had a call today with a guy, I have this sports agency, and I had a call today with a guy who runs a huge agency. And he was like, yo, so-and-so, a friend of mine who owned Reebok and Champion, Nick Woodhouse, who owned Authentic Brands Group, nicest guy in the world. He said to this guy who's like, the guy, when we get on the call, he's like, oh, I live 2 doors down from Nick Woodhouse. Nick Woodhouse lives in like a $50 million house on the water in Miami. I go, oh, you must be rich as fuck too then. And he's like, no, I'm a poor kid from Jersey, but Nick told me I need to know you, so I need to know you. Tell me about your agency. How can I help you? And I was like, this never happens.
Right.
But when you live your life with intention and character and integrity, you're going to run into people like you're going to run into shitheads too. But when you do the right thing, you can run into really good people. And that's a great story, though, about your dad laying the foundation and being a good dude and having it come back to help you. So you start out in Atlanta as a scout, and then you end up at the 49ers. What was that like? Because that's where you were the majority of your career was with the Niners.
We skipped a step. So again, into the exact point you just made, that the guy you're next to may be the president of Intel in 5 years. Les Snead is in line or a part of getting me in Atlanta.
Okay.
So I worked in Atlanta for 4 years. Then Les gets the GM job with the Rams in St. Louis at the time. So then he hires me into my first role as a director. And so I go with him to...
And director's a step up from scout, right?
Yes.
So it goes scout, director,
and then,
director, player personnel.
Well, it goes... So it's scouting assistant, scout... And then there's like director of pro personnel, director of college personnel. Then there's director of player personnel. And then from there, it could, I mean, the way they make up titles and shit now.
But theoretically, it's GMs above player personnel.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And so Les gets the GM job, brings me over to St. Louis as director of pro personnel. So I was with the Rams for 4 years in St. Louis and then the first year in LA. So did that transition, and then from there I went to the Niners.
That's a good play. That's a good move from St. Louis to L.A., especially where the Rams are on Thousand Oaks.
They've moved now. We were in Thousand Oaks.
But when you went there, were they at Cal Lutheran?
Yeah, we were at Cal Lu. So I lived right the other way. So you come up to 101, get off on Lynn.
No, I know it.
If you bang a right, you go to Cal Lu. You bang a left, you go down to where I lived.
I used to ride my bike all through from Pacific Palisades, all through like Thousand Oaks, up Calabasas, like everywhere. Yeah. I would go all through there with a bunch of different pro cyclists. And so I knew Cal Lutheran like the back of my hand.
Yeah, so
we were beautiful.
We were on that backside by the sports fields. Mm-hmm. We had I think it was like they built us a makeshift.
It was very makeshift.
Yeah, it was like 75 modular trailers, like
That's
all
right.
interconnected.
It's funny when you think about what they had to what they have now.
Yeah,
they're like, it's the cream of the crop. I mean, maybe Allegiant Stadium in Vegas might be higher end now, but at the time, LA SoFi Stadium, that's where they play, right?
Yeah, they play at SoFi.
Holy shit, that place is
so
nice.
it was cool to have that experience, right? Because having seen the process of what it was like for Kevin Demoff and Tony Pastors and that whole group to prepare to move a franchise from one place to another while getting a new stadium done.
Yep.
So seeing every iteration of SoFi Stadium, from the beginning to what it is now, it was a cool thing.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, from there went to the Niners. I went to the Niners as in a lateral move as pro personnel, and then a couple years, I think I was in that role for 3 years maybe. Then I got promoted to director of player personnel, and I was in that role for 2 years, and then got the GM job here in Tennessee.
How was the experience in San Fran?
I love it. Easily my favorite organization that I've worked for. Just the people from top to bottom are great. Just the history of that organization. The owner, Jed York, he's the CEO of the company. His parents are part of ownership, as well as his sisters, and his brother Tony, God rest Tony's soul, was a part of ownership as well. But Jed and I are the same age, right? So it's a little bit different, having a conversation with him versus his dad, Dr. York.
Yeah.
But like I said, those people, you talk about, everyone says it all the time, oh, this is a family.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay. And then you're a family till you're not.
Yeah.
you know what I mean? You're a family till you're not. But there with that organization, like, you're legitimately family.
Yeah.
Like to this day, if I text Dr. York, if I text Jed, if I text the twins, which are his sisters, like, I'll get a response.
Yeah.
And this is ownership. I was just there this past summer in training camp in a capacity with CBS, right? And I'm trying to do everything above board. Like, okay, where does the media go?
Yep.
And But when I walked in the building from top to bottom, whether you worked in the equipment room to accounting, and accounting are now all those places are there in a separate building. But it was like love, like, oh my God, you're back.
Yeah.
Like, welcome home. You know what I mean? And it's, like I said, John Lynch, one of the greatest leaders I've ever worked for. Kyle Shanahan, in my opinion, should be coach of the year this year. I'll spare you from going into my going into my pitch for him being coach of the year. But that was an awesome experience.
I'm gonna make my pitch for Vrabel.
Yeah, but I can counter your argument at every point. But but understand having to still continuing to grow and learn football, listening to Kyle Shanahan talk football. You talk about our 2019 draft room. Our 2019 draft room, which was the year we went to the Super Bowl and lost to the Chiefs for the first time. That 2019 draft room featured 5 GMs and 5 head coaches, right? So John Lynch, Martin Mayhew, who was the GM, ended up becoming the GM of the Commanders, myself, Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, who is the GM of the Minnesota Vikings, and Adam Peters, who's the GM of the Commanders now. So that was 5 GMs in that draft room as scouts.
Yeah.
Then on the coaching side, you had Kyle Shanahan, you had Robert Saleh,
Yeah.
you had Mike McDaniel, and you had DeMeco Ryans.
It's a lot of football knowledge.
And so this was a collective group that was put together. And it was one of those deals, man, where like we could be in that room, and obviously we respected John and we respected Kyle and their titles, but we could have football conversations in a way that guys could have football conversations. And what I loved about that organization, man, is again, like everything was top notch. The way they cared about their players, the way they looked out for the players. Like the 49ers have it's run by former players, but they have I'm calling it a fund because I don't know what name to put on it, but it's called the Golden Heart. And it's to help like former 49er players who are struggling financially or looking for jobs or those type things. They have this organization that helps these former 49er players. And I'm like, man, like there's not very many organizations. I don't even know if any other organizations have that, but that was easily like my favorite organization that I work for. Like I root for. I didn't grow up having a favorite NFL team.
Yeah.
Right. I just rooted for wherever my dad was. And then I started playing, and then it was like, well, I'm a root for whatever team I'm on.
Of course.
But then you get in the personnel side, and it's like, well, I'm a root for whoever's cutting the checks. You know, and for me, even though I was here in Tennessee, you know, obviously, you know, we didn't have a ton of success, but I would always come home after those games, and to like decompress my mind, I would watch the Niners game.
Yeah.
And if the Niners won, I can at least feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I find myself now, like I root for the Niners. So if you ask me in this present day who my favorite team is, I will 100% tell you the San Francisco 49ers.
If you're looking for a clean, sustainable energy boost without the jitters, Athletic Nicotine is for you. Athletic Nicotine offers the lowest dose, slow release, tobacco-free nicotine made right here in the USA, and it's free from microplastics. Whether you're an athlete, a biohacker, an artist, or someone who just loves getting into that flow state, this product is designed to gradually lift your energy, helping you stay focused and sharp without crashing. It's perfect for shifting your mindset and keeping you in the zone all day long. I use Athletic Nicotine before every podcast or whenever I have to be mentally focused. I throw one in right before the meeting or the podcast, and it's the perfect performance tool to sharpen your mind. If you're ready to level up your focus, head over to athleticnicotine.com/rideout to grab yours today. Again, that's athleticnicotine.com/rideout. Well, let's talk about the Titans, and I know that there's only so much you can say about the situation. So if I ask you anything that's uncomfortable, we'll just skip it. But what was it like going from that organization, which has a lot more history, is more established? So it's not to say anything negative about Titans, but what was it like going from that, like the gold standard, to like a relatively new team with not necessarily a lot of culture and history? How was that adjustment?
Well, it wasn't very. I'll say this, it wasn't a ton of adjustments. It was the difference was knowing that I was in charge, and win, lose, or draw, it was on me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, you know, when I first got the job, I knew what I wanted to establish. I knew that the way we did things at the 49ers was the right way of doing things. And by that, I mean, you hear this word being tossed around now, collaboration.
Yep.
Right. And I'm just going to be frank. I think a lot of people that, and this isn't just sports, this is just life. People that preach collaboration, I think a lot of people are full of shit when it comes to that, because you don't want collaboration. You just want somebody to agree with you.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And what I saw in San Francisco was true collaboration. And it was John and Kyle in lockstep, understanding what it was. Kyle Shanahan and his staff made our job as scouts so easy because they knew how to set the table. We knew exactly what we were looking for in every single player on the football field for their scheme. So it made our jobs easy. It took all the guesswork out of it. And so that was one of the things I wanted to establish here. And the thing was too, is like, again, that sense of family where everyone can enjoy coming to work. I've worked in some places where I didn't enjoy coming to work.
Yeah.
And it was like, God damn it. Like, I got to go to this place. Like, let me put my fake face on and go in here. But when I got to the 49ers, like, even when we started that first season, 2017, 0-9, you were never defeated.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you were like, damn it, we're so close. Yeah. We're so close. And when we get that first win, the dam is going to break. And it did. You know, we ended up winning 5 in a row to end that season. And so, again, won 5 in a row to end that season. The next year, Jimmy Garoppolo tears his ACL in like the 3rd game. We damn near have to punt on that season. But then the next year, we're in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Right? And so you have to live through those hard moments to get to the next step. But again, it's trusting the process, trusting the people that you have in place. And so one of the things, like I said, I wanted to establish that rapport with the coaching staff and having a full knowledge and understanding of what they wanted to do offensively and defensively and on special teams. So now it makes the scouts' job easier. I heard it somewhere, and it just became like my mantra of hunting at the same time isn't the same as hunting together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I wanted us to be able to hunt together. We know what we're looking for. Let's go out, let's hunt, let's bring it back. And so that's what I wanted to establish there. And again, that true family environment. I wanted to be able to, I want to know your wife. I want to know your kids. I want you to feel comfortable bringing your family here.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want it to be like, oh shit, like, damn, they caught me here on a Saturday with my kid. Like, am I going to get in trouble? Because I've lived that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't want you to have to worry about, let's say it this way. I've gone through a moment in my career where even though I'm in the house with my children, I could go 2 to 3 weeks without ever seeing my children awake.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm gone before they get up and I come home when they're already in the bed.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget my oldest daughter one time. She was about 4 years old or so. And she was like, how come you don't live with us anymore? And that shit broke my heart.
I was going to say.
And so I always told myself, I want to one day put myself in a position where I can be able to spend time with my family and not miss things with my family. And so those were some of the things that I wanted to bring here, because I knew having those foundational things would allow a culture, to start to build. And again, you go back, you look at what was done in San Francisco. You look at all those guys that are out there in San Francisco. You look at all those things, and you look at each one of those buildings that I told you about where their guys are, and that's how they run their buildings.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so that was some of the things I wanted to bring here.
And when you got here, what did you find to be the most challenging aspect?
The challenging aspect for me was understanding that everything I did to get me a position to get this role was only about 15 to 20% of what I did in the job.
Yeah.
Right? Because you take on so many hats. Us football guys, all we focus on is getting the talent right. I want to get the players. I want to get the right players on the team and pick the players and all of that. But there are so many other things that come within this job, man, that you have to manage on a day-to-day basis. Like, you're lucky if you can create the time where you can sit down and write, let's say 5 to 7 scouting reports a day. As a GM, you're lucky. Scott Pioli told me one time, and I told him every time I see him now, I was like, you jinx me, But he was like, every day there are going to be 3 to 5 things that come up that you hadn't planned for. And it was like, as soon as he told me that, like that started to happen every day because it just takes you away. And one thing I developed was I started coming in even earlier. So I would get in between 5 and 5:30, and then I would keep my door closed till 7:30, 7:45. And that would be my me time for me to sit there and watch film and evaluate talent. And here and there I could sneak in, okay, players are in meetings, coaches are in meetings, the hallway's quiet where the scouts are, okay, I can get some film in, right? And then I would end my day doing the same thing. Usually after 6:30, the building kind of quiets down, and then I would be in there till 10 and get me some film in. And so that was the one thing that I was like, oh, wow, like time, I don't have time. Like time isn't mine.
Yeah.
So as soon as I open my door, like I'm solving everybody else's problems.
Yeah.
And then being a leader that's in the mix, it was one of those things where whatever you say, whether you're saying it tongue in cheek or being like, people take it serious.
Yeah.
And people are also looking for validation from you.
Yep.
So if a scout wants to come and have a conversation with you, in that scout's mind, that is the most important conversation they've had for that day. And and from your end, it's like I'm having this conversation, but I also got shit to do. You know what I mean?
That's right.
But you owe it to that person to give them your undivided attention in that time. And so sometimes that's 30 minutes, 45 minutes, it's an hour, depending on what it is. And next thing you know, you look up and it's like, well, damn, now I got to go to practice.
Yeah.
Practice is 2 hours. You come in, you meet with the coach and you go through some other stuff. And then, oh, you got to meet with this person before the end of the day. And then you look up, it's 5 o'clock and you're like, what the hell have I done today? And so that was the one thing that I was like, that I initially like struggled with.
And time management and allocating the
Well,
right
not even just the time management part of it. It was just like I don't have time for myself, to the point where like at my house, I had film at my house.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, now I have to start thinking about it from a time efficiency standpoint.
Yeah.
Right. So am I going to get up at 4:30, drive these 20 minutes to the job, or I can get up at 4:30, walk down the hall, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I can get an extra 30, 45 minutes of film in at home if I just do it this way. You know what? I'm just going to do it down here in my little film room at the house.
Was it a big adjustment as well, going from like, not that you would be anonymous as the director of player personnel, but to people outside of the building? No one's really paying attention to who's below the GM. Was that a big adjustment where now it's like all the lights are on you? It's like, if the team's not doing well, they're like, coach and GM, what's going on?
So I'll say it this way. I was very comfortable being out front because, I played in the SEC and, so it was like you're used to doing these interviews, having a camera in your face. But in my role as a pro scout, as a director of player personnel, I had grown so accustomed to just handling stuff behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Right. Making whoever the leader was, let me make sure that my leader is on with the best information. My leader is looking great. And that's where I was like, you know what? This is the perfect role for me.
Yeah.
Because I can stay behind the scenes, do what I do. And I used to always say, and I had this in like one of my presentations, my job in my mind was to make the head coach a rock star.
Yep.
Right? Because if I'm doing my job and the head coach's face is all over billboards and he's being lauded as the greatest coach ever, that means I'm doing my job.
That's right.
Right? I'm giving him some talent to work with and whatnot. And so I never particularly wanted to be out front. But in this situation, it calls for me to be out front. Because if you think about it, I don't know that there have been very many GMs that were as visible as I was. Now, I know there's some people here where, oh, you never spoke. Well, that's your opinion, right?
Yeah.
The NFL rules don't require me to speak every day.
Yeah.
But there are some GMs that, put it like this, if Mickey Loomis walked in here, right? Mickey Loomis has been a Super Bowl winning GM. He's the longest tenured GM in the NFL.
Yeah.
If he walked in this room right now, you wouldn't have a clue who he was.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that's just the way Mickey goes about his business. And so this particular situation calls for me to be out front. And I mean, I'm very aware that, like, okay, when you're out front, you're going to face the scrutiny. And I understood that and accepted it, And again, like I was always here for objective criticism, right? Like I embrace that. If it is what it is, if we're not winning enough games, then I get criticized for it. That's life, right? But sometimes I felt like the criticism took a personal turn.
Yeah.
Right? Where you're making these assumptions about me and you've never had a conversation with me. And I'm speaking like particularly about media folk.
Yeah.
Like you could easily, if you present yourself the right way, we could easily have a man-to-man conversation or a man-to-woman conversation and you could get to know me. But on the other hand, you can't make these wild assumption statements about me and then expect for me to turn around and be nice to you.
That's right.
Like I don't owe you shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so for me, it was always like, be objective, criticize me, critique me objectively, but again, like let's not make it personal.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it became personal.
Yeah. How much did you live and die with every game, like every win? Was it just like agonizing when they weren't winning, or was it kind of like, all right, I'm taking it in stride? Like, you know, most of the times you can look at the roster, I mean, as a football guy and be like, this is going to be a tough week, or these next 5 games are going to be crazy hard. Like, would it just be like sheer agony, like when something wouldn't go right? Or
hell yeah. And I will tell you this, and not that everyone else would see it, but next time you see my wife, say, hey, Rand told me to ask you to show me the pictures of him after games. I wasn't even aware that she would take pictures of me after games, like when I got home.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
I think that's what a lot of fans don't realize is how much the team and the players and the organization cares.
Yeah.
That's why I ask, is like you lose, it's like, oh.
I'm gonna tell you something, Ken. This past Thanksgiving, one of my cousins, she came in town and I hadn't seen her in a couple months.
I think I met her at the tailgate.
Yeah. And so we were sitting in my living room and we were just talking, and she looked at me and she smiled. She was like, "Cuz you look back to yourself again." I'm like, "What does that mean?" I was like, "What changed?" She was like, "You weren't looking like yourself." And I was like, "Damn." And she was like, I never wanted to bother you about it. She was like, because I know things are stressful. And she was like, but you hadn't looked like yourself in a very long time. She was like, but you look like yourself. And that's just the fact of the matter, man. It's almost like I remember someone, when Obama left office, they had the picture when he entered office and the picture when he left office, and how much he aged over those 8 years. Like it takes a toll on you, man. Like seriously, it takes a toll on you. It takes a toll on your family. And the reason why it takes a toll on you is because you, not only are you aware of what you have to do, because again, this is our livelihoods. This is how we feed our family. This is how we support our families. But kids are cruel.
Yes.
And so you don't know if the scrutiny that you may be facing, kids are doing the same thing to your kids,
of course,
in school. And so those are all things. So the day I got let go, my first thing was, I told my wife, and I was like, sign my daughter out of school, because kids at high school, they got phones.
Yeah.
So it's going to hit their phones. And I don't want her to have to deal with this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And kids saying something, because, like, listen, I'm just going to call it spade with a spade. If you disrespect mine, I'm gonna give her permission to kick your ass. You know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna play the holier than thou
That's
game.
right.
If you do something for her and she feels like it's warrant to whoop your ass, then I'm all here for it. And so to avoid those type situations, I was like, well, wait a minute. I wanted her out of school, and even for my sons, like I didn't have the conversation with them. I waited like a couple of days because they're oblivious.
Yeah.
And then it was a conversation with like, hey buddy, like, Dad's not going to be working for the Titans anymore, so we won't be going to Nissan Stadium anymore. And they're like, so we can't go to any football games? And I'm like, well, we can go to football games. Like, we got friends in a lot of places. I was like, well, we'll do when the schedule comes out. We'll look and see where all of our friends are, and then we'll pick a game and we'll go watch games at our friends. And then my youngest son, so do I have to like sit in the stands or can I sit in the suite?
Yeah, that's funny.
And so I'm like, listen, wherever our friends can get us seats, I was like, we'll just have fun and go support our friends. But that, like I said, man, it's, I'm forever grateful for the opportunity because it allowed me to realize a dream of being an NFL GM. The best thing I took from it was the relationships, because part of it too was me wanting to have an impact and impact these players and have an impact in their impact the player on the field, help them develop, become the best, but more so impact them as people, off the field. Like I'm so proud, of guys like Azeez Al-Shaair, making his first Pro Bowl this year with the Houston Texans. Luke Gifford, a guy that we signed here, he made the Pro Bowl as a special teamers for the 49er. A guy like Cedric Gray, drafted him in the 4th round last year, and he came within, I don't know what, 8 tackles or so of setting his single season record for most tackles. Like I'm proud of those guys and what they're doing on the field, but the people they're becoming off the field. And a lot of those guys, still have good relationships with. And like I told some of them, like, look, man, like when I told you that we're family, like I meant that, and I didn't say it just because we had the same logo or we were wearing the same colors. Like I mean that. So I'm here for you no matter what. Like Ken, like I used to have guys come over for Thanksgiving, guys come over for Christmas, guys who needed places to go.
Yeah.
And because that's just who I am as a person. And I mean, you saw some guys come out this year for the tailgate, and but it was just the power of building genuine relationships with these guys, man. So I'm for it. Like I said, the biggest blessing in my whole experience with the Titans was bringing me here to this area.
Yeah.
Because I mean, yeah, I've heard of Nashville, I've heard of Brentwood, I've heard of Franklin, but I wouldn't have come here on my own.
Right.
Right. Like if it was left up to me, I would go to the Atlanta area or back home to South Florida. I go where I've been.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But to bring me to this place, and like when we talked at the very top of this, to come here and find community and to find these great people, you mentioned, DQ and Billy and, Big Dave, and find all these dudes that you just naturally connect to. Our families naturally connect, our kids naturally connect. And it's just like, to me, like this is a place that I could live, forever. I remember yesterday, as a matter of fact, my son, for whatever reason, he wanted to walk home from school. So I walked to the school, waited for him. He got out, we walked home, and in my driveway, we wrote our name on the concrete.
Yeah.
And so we're walking up, and he goes over, he looks at it, and he, kicks it with his foot. And he's like, and then he's 7. He's like, is this our forever home? And I was like, do you want it to be our forever home? He's like, yeah, I want this to be our forever home. And I was like, you know what? I was like, man, I agree with you. I want this to be our forever home too. So that was again, being able to realize a dream, but then bringing me here and having a place that I feel like I can truly raise my family. And like that was a big blessing.
Well, you don't have to tell me. I mean, that's why I wanted to talk to you here, because, I mean, we've known each other for a little while, but not crazy well. For like, I'm sure a lot of people, like football guys, football insiders, would love to chat with you. And I'm sure there's a football crowd out there that's going to be like, this guy didn't ask any good questions about football. I'm like, it's not really.
I'll be honest with you, man. I'm glad that we're not sitting here talking about the 2026 draft and the free agency class. And
you talk about that all the time. If someone wants that, they know where to find your opinion on that stuff.
But see, and that's the thing too, man. Like, one thing that we get so locked into is seeing people through the medium in which we know them.
Yeah.
Right. So for everybody, I'm always just football.
Yep.
And as well as I know, because we've had these conversations, like I'm interested in so many other things.
That's right.
And football is really a small part of that. Now, again, I understand it. Like, football has been my platform. Football has been the way that people have known me and my family. But I was with one of my really good friends, and we were at dinner in D.C. He was like, what's next? After all of this, what's next? And I was like, man, I'm a big fan of the Godfather movies. I said, the only thing that keeps coming to my mind is when Michael kept saying he wants to take the Corleone family legit.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to take the Carthon family legit. And by that, I used the double entendre, like I want to get us out of the game.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't want my kids to have to grow up thinking that the only way they could be successful in life is playing professional ball.
Yeah.
Like, and so when I told him that, he paused and he said, "Hey man, I want to share something with you." He was like, "If I offend you, like, I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend you." He was like, "All your dad could give you was the game, because that's what he knows."
That's right.
Right? He was like, "That's all he could give you was the game." He said, "You know more, you've been exposed to more, so you owe it to your family to share with them more than the game."
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so when you touched on it briefly earlier, saying that, like, you don't have to be that dad that lives vicariously through their kid. I tell my kids all the time, like, I get mad at them for performances in game. I don't care that you didn't score or whatever the case may be. I get mad when you don't play hard.
That's it.
You know what I mean? Like, just go hard. Whatever the result is, it'll be the result. As long as you went hard and you left it all on the field, on the court, or whatever you're doing, I'm good with that.
Yeah.
And so, but even now, like for me, and my daughter, she's really big into flag football here and big part of what they do with the boys varsity football team. But even her, like me exposing her to different things, like I get it, you love football. But let's be real, the height in which a woman can go in this league hasn't reached the pinnacle where it could be or where it should be. So right now, the ceiling's a little lower for you. And so I owe it to you to show you a different path. And that's what I'm working on with her right now, and have her engaged in some things. Like when I have certain meetings, like I'm like, "Hey, what time are you home from school?" "Okay, well, make sure you're here by 3:45 because I'm going to set this meeting for this time so you can sit in on the meeting."
Yeah.
And listen and start familiarizing yourself with these things. And so, I want to be able to get my family out of the game. Where if we want to be involved in football in some aspects, it's because we want to.
Yeah.
Not because we have to, and this is the means in which you use to support your family. I've seen it too many times, and it really pained my heart to see coaches when you see them at the combine or these all-star games who've been out of the game for 5, 6, 10 years, and then they're trying so desperately hard to get back in. And I'm like, my heart goes out to them because I get it. I understand where you are, and I understand what. And now some of them are like just die hard. I just want to coach in the NFL because I love it. But some of them need that to support their families. And I don't ever want to be just dependent on the game for that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so us having this conversation allows us to talk about other things than that. Like, again, I understand that football sports will always be that centerpiece on the table, but it's so much more of the table that we can cover versus what's in the center.
Yeah. And one of the things that I cover on the show is like dealing with hardship and dealing with difficulty. And the one last thing I want to touch on about the experience in Nashville, I'm assuming you're not expecting to get fired, right?
Yeah.
So when that happens, what's going through your head? Like, what's the process like, and how do you bounce back from that? Because it's so public, and you can see your whole life's been football, and something like that happens, and you're like, almost feels like, I would imagine, tell me if I'm wrong, that it almost feels like betrayal. Like, I've been here 2 years. You dragged me here from San Francisco. You asked me to do a job, and it's like the house is half built, and you're like, nah, we don't like the way this is going. You're out of here. How did you handle it, and what did you do? Like, what?
Well, I'll say this, Ken. Like, I'm very observant. And people, I mean, you know me, we've been around each other a ton. Like, I could talk to anybody. You put me in any room, I'm comfortable, I'm good. But one thing about it, I know I talk a lot. I can talk a lot, but I'm just as observant, even not more observant. So I study people's body language. I study your behavioral patterns, even if we're just friends, because again, I want to take those nonverbal cues from you to see where you are.
Yeah.
Right. So if I walk into a room and I've been around you enough and I'm like, okay, Ken's in a shitty mood today. So I know I can't bullshit with him or joke with him. Like, okay, Ken, what's up, man? You good? Okay, good. All right, cool. Like, all right, brother. And I'll feed off of your energy. So there were things that I noticed or that I was noticing that I'm like, okay, I'm comfortable. So to say I was caught off guard would be a lie, because I wasn't.
But that's almost worse. It's like, I know something's going on here, but I don't know what it is. And it's like, now you're like spending weeks and months agonizing, like, what the hell is with this person?
No, but I would say this, and I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but I have the ability to compartmentalize.
Yeah.
Right. And I look at it like opening up tabs on
Yeah.
the iPad or the computer, right? Like I have the ability to be here, but then if I need to open up this tab, I can open up this tab and
I
start
gotcha.
fresh, right? And so I'm able to, go from these different things. But to your point, if you have too many tabs open, that modem starts to function a little bit slower.
That's
You
right.
know what I mean? So you have to handle some of those things. So when I wouldn't say that I felt betrayed. When I was fired, it kind of is what it is. Again, goes back to what my dad said: if you work the damn in this league, you'd be fired at least once. And so to like, honestly, like just me having the experiences I had growing up, like I said, me being a military brat, having to move every 3-4 years,
Yeah.
like I'm used to resets, right? And so that's what I took this as. This is a reset. And I remember talking to Turner Nash, and we talked about some things that he went through. And I asked him, I said, "Hey man, like how did you bounce back? What did you do in the meantime until you got to where you wanted to be?" And he said, "Man, you know what?" He said, I took a year, and he said that allowed me to connect more with my family, connect more with my wife, and be there in a way for them that I hadn't been. So I leaned on that, and Turner was one of the first people I talked to after the news was made public that I had been let go. And so this is the first time I've ever said this publicly. So I'm gonna give you something. I actually had the conversation with my wife and daughters the day before, and was like, "This is probably about to come." And they were like, "No." I was like, "Just trust me. This is probably about to come. I want you guys to prepare your mind for it. You know what I mean? So you're not caught off guard with it." And so when the news was made public, you know, I'm driving down the road. I'm actually on the phone, and then Turner called. So I took his call, and he was like, "So
Turner, the one that lives next door to Derek
yeah."
Quarles? Oh, yeah, he's a great dude.
And so he's like, "So what are we gonna do next?" And I was like, "I'm gonna live off your script." I said, "I'm gonna be present as a husband. I'm gonna be present as a father." And I'll be honest with you, I haven't had a bad day. I've been able to be present. I've been able to travel with the family for spring break. I've been able to coach my son's flag football. I've been able to do a ton of things that I otherwise wouldn't be able to, right? Like, yeah, I could be able to show up for a game, but I can now, I'm at practices. I mean,
Yeah.
so I'm doing a bunch of things as a husband, as a father, that I've never been allowed to do
Yeah.
before. Like I get up with my sons every morning, help get them dressed for school, help get them fed, help get them off to the bus. I'm the dad now that like, damn, the bus is taking a little too long today. All right, let me grab my wife's minivan. All right, all the kids at the bus stop, pack up in the minivan.
Yeah.
I'm gonna drive you to school.
Yeah.
And so my sons expect me to pick them up every day after school.
Yeah.
So I'm the dad waiting in the car rider line. The other day I'm sitting there at the car rider line, and I had a long day. I had been up early and was doing a bunch of work. And so I'm sitting in the car rider line, and I don't play the radio or anything in my car. And next thing you know, I just doze off, and I look up, and all the cars ahead of me are gone. And it's probably like 18 cars behind me.
Oh,
So I'm
my
like, oh, and so, but no, man, it's been one of those things where, to me, it's all in your mindset, right? It's all in your mindset. And I remember going through that last season in Tennessee, and I had this conversation with James Mitchell, the team chaplain, who's now a Patriot. He's now with Braves in New England. And everything in my life, my personal life, was great. My marriage was healthy and great. My kids were healthy and great. And I was like, God damn it, like this football piece is the only piece that's missing.
Yeah.
So I went to him and I was like, and again, like, I just like to be me.
Yeah.
So I like, listen, man, I know you're the team chaplain. And I know I shouldn't be saying certain things. But I was like, why the fuck isn't everything in my life like all on par? I'm like, I'm happy and I'm great here. But this football season is so damn hard. Like, why can't it all meet?
Yeah.
And then I told him, I said, I wanted to have peace and happiness in all areas of my life. And he told me, he said, if you look in the Bible, he said, there's one word that's used a lot. I can't remember the exact way he said it, but he said joy. He said, happiness is fleeting. He said, but He was like, but if you're looking for peace and joy, like that is more attainable, and you can have that more consistently. So from that moment forward, I started praying every morning, every night. I didn't say, you know, please bless me with the winning lotto numbers so I can win this $1 billion and just disappear from life. Listen, please make this day the most peaceful and most joyous day I've ever had.
Yeah.
You know, I pray for that every morning, every night. Peace and joy, peace and joy. Now, one thing I've learned, again, it goes back to what I said earlier, wording matters, right? I was never specific in my prayer of how I wanted that peace and joy to look.
Yeah.
I just wanted peace and joy. And so I get let go. And yeah, that's a tough time for most. And even my wife is like, I'm still waiting on you to have a break now. You know what I mean? But every day I've had peace and joy.
Yeah.
You know, I've had peace and joy. So that's why I can say, like, I haven't had a bad day, because I wasn't specific, you know, with the Most High and what I wanted that peace and joy to look like. I just wanted peace and joy. And ever since that moment, which has been a year ago, 2 days ago, January 7th, I've had peace and joy, you know, and I embrace every moment of it. I tell my kids in the morning, like, who wakes up to be mad?
Yeah.
Like, we're up. Like, let's just make the most of the day. It doesn't have to be an eventful filled day. If you want to just chill and be in your PJs and lay around the couch and watch movies, okay, cool, do that. But we're not waking up to be upset or to find something to be upset. Like, I refuse to do that. To me, that's just like me drinking the poison, expecting somebody else to die.
That's right.
You know? And so, yeah, I mean, it was more so tough for me because I cared about my kids. And I know there was some people like, man, I didn't know quite what to say to you, like how you was. I was like, bro, like, it is what it is. Like, it's a part of the business. So the coaches that was most recently fired, if I had a relationship with them, I didn't text them, I called them.
Yeah.
Like, and if you picked up, you picked up. If you didn't, I'll shoot you a quick text. Hey, man, keep your head up. You know, like, this is just a part of it. You'll be fine, you know, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, that's, again, it's a part of the business. But again, man, like, I'm enjoying my life. Me and my wife, before I came here this morning, we had a big sit down, not a big sit down. She said she needed more time to prepare, but we got on the whiteboard in my office and just started, okay, here's the first, you know, we're in the first quarter of the new year. What are we trying to get done? You know, okay, boom, we got done with that whole conversation, the financial piece. All right, travel wise, we're the first quarter of the year. Let's just map out the first quarter. Where are we trying to go? What is January? What is February? What is March? Where are we trying to go? What are we trying to do? And so, like, being able to have those type meetings, you know, now with my family, better organize my family. So it's like, I couldn't have those if I was still, you know, working in the NFL. But, you know, the other thing it does too, man, is like, I've always had big dreams, big lofty dreams. And being an NFL GM was one of my dreams.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the biggest one.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And now what this does is I'm taking direction from the Most High. I'm like, okay, when else have I ever had this much time to myself to kind of focus on me and do something else? And so now I'm challenging myself to work towards that main goal. Right. And it's been great. It's been a journey, but it's been great. It's been fun. You know, I mean, you know, a couple months ago, I came to you talking, hey, man, talk to me about this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just being able to do those type things, like, I wouldn't have been able to do those before.
Well, you always learn more from the setbacks than you do from the wins. I mean, the first time I went to the Ironman in Hawaii, I just quit on the run. It was hard. I was like, I'm not going to do this. And that, I was mortified. There was no reason. I just was like convinced myself that it was okay to like shut it down. I got here, I qualified, I made it. And when I came back from there, I was like, I will die before I ever feel like this again. And it motivated me to go on and do some like big things in running. But if you don't have losses, like, you can't have really any growth. It's like sometimes you need a little setback. And this is probably just the start of like the next big chapter in your life. So I think it's important for people to hear about, like, you know, how do people process, like, you know, losses, temporary setbacks. And I'm sure you're on your way to great things coming forward. Before we wrap up, who's going to win the Super Bowl?
Shit, I wish I could tell you. My preseason picks was Baltimore and Detroit. Neither one of those teams made. But if I had to predict, I think I think I'm on record with the Rams. I'd say the Rams for the NFC and the AFC. Honestly, I'm choosing between Denver and Buffalo for some reason. Buffalo. I keep seeing Buffalo with the red helmets that they wore the other week. So let's just go Buffalo, LA, and then I like LA to win it.
All right. I think
I know that
the
hurts you.
Patriots are going to win.
Now, listen, I will say this. For all the Patriots fans that's going to watch this, that are going to say, see, this is why he got fired as a GM. He doesn't know anything. Go on record. You can go back. I was one of the few people on TV that picked the Patriots to make the playoffs this year. I picked the Patriots and the Bears to make the playoffs this year.
Patriots won one. If they didn't lose an early season game to the Raiders, they got the number 1 seed. But they've won some close ones too. But it's been a fun season. Who wins MVP?
MVP will be Matthew Stafford.
I think so, but I was hoping Drake May would. No,
I think so. The couple things with Drake May. Drake May, obviously young superstar on the rise. You probably didn't know this. He only in his 2 years in the NFL, he's only got 1 300-yard passing game.
Wow,
and that was a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
and so when you look at statistically, and they'll say it won't matter, but just the long haul of Matthew Stafford's career is going to factor in.
For sure.
They won't say it, but
even without the long haul, his stats this year are crazy. I heard Brady talking about him the other day and said the same thing. He was like, you can't deny Stafford's stats this year.
Yeah, Stafford will be the MVP.
Well, hopefully I'll see you out in San Fran. I'm there that week, so we can talk about planning to get together. I'm doing. I'm going to help and host a global like sports and media investing conference there on the 5th. So we'll talk about that.
I have some things lined up that should bring me out. I'm kind of waiting on confirmation, but as of now, I'm supposed to be out there the 5th and the 6th. We'll see if that actually, because that's on our board at home. So we'll see if that, and I actually put next to a tentative. So we'll see if that actually happens.
All right. Well,
but we're going to talk anyways.
I'll get you the details, though. It'd be great to see you out there. Well, Rand, thanks for doing this. Appreciate you, man. Hope everyone enjoys it, learning more about the man behind the football scenes.
Yeah, and, man. I appreciate you having me. Just like when first of all, you sent me a bullshit text about it. Like, I hope you're available. If not, so I'm like, man, shut up. You're like, I got you. Like, you my guy. Of course I'll do it.
Well, you're the best, man. That's why I asked you, because I knew you would. So thanks for doing this, man, and appreciate you, brother.
Yes, sir.
Boom. All right, guys, my new book available for pre-order everywhere you buy books. Everything You Want Is on the Other Side of Hard, a memoir by me, Ken Rideout. Thank you to everyone that's pre-ordered the book so far. I really appreciate you. The pre-orders have been incredible. A lot of exciting stuff coming up. I'll be doing book events live in Nashville, New York, and LA sometime around the last week of Feb, first week of March. The book officially publishes on March 10th, but I cover everything in here. There's something for everyone. I talk about my childhood, my experience in the prison, my experience with drug addiction and subsequent recovery, my family and my relationship with my wife, as well as obviously tons of stories about running and endurance events. But like I said, I think there's something for everyone in here. I've got some beautiful quotes and blurbs from friends like Andrew Huberman, Reggie Miller, Dustin Poirier, Gabby Reese, Sahil Bloom, a whole host of friends that were kind enough to support my journey as a writer. But please check it out. If you're looking for some inspiration or motivation in the new year, Everything You Want's on the Other Side of Hard, my memoir. Thank you for your consideration. Also available on audible.com. I just finished reading the audiobook, as a matter of fact. But I hope you guys enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to hearing what everyone thinks. Thank you. Boom. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. Please take a quick minute to subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening. This is a new show, so subscribing makes a huge difference. Please also take a minute to give it a review and leave a comment on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. You can also subscribe and leave a comment on YouTube. Again, this is really important for us, especially now since we're just getting started. Please also check out all of our sponsors. They make the show possible, and honestly, I love and use every single product we talk about on the show. You can learn more about me, this podcast, and also find links to purchase my upcoming memoir at theothersideofhard.com. My new book is called Everything You Want Is on the Other Side of Hard, and it comes out March 10th, available everywhere you buy books, Or again, go into theothersideofhard.com. There's multiple links there where you can find all the retailers carrying the book. Thanks a lot for being with us, and we'll see you next week.